Hey guys, and welcome to the FitLife with Kelli stretching series. So as I mentioned on the post, this week, or actually this month, we're going to be focusing on stretching. And there's so many different types of stretching. We have dynamic stretching, static stretching, partner-assisted stretching. We have self-myofascial release. We have stretching straps. We have the foam rollers for that release, and ballistic stretching. So the first thing I want to talk about is ballistic stretching. I'm going to give you an example of what it is, and I don't want you to ever do the ballistic stretching. The only time we ever really do that is if you're a professional athlete. So the ballistic stretching typically is where you're doing bouncing movements in that stretching, and we just definitely don't want to do it. So an example of ballistic stretching, if you guys have been in fitness for a while, it's something that we would be doing like this, where you are temporarily going beyond the range of motion. So if I was going to do a range of motion of my hamstrings, this is where I start feeling the stretch. This bouncing movement is pushing me beyond that. So unless you're a professional athlete trying to really increase that range of motion in that movement type, then I don't ever want you doing ballistic stretching. So the way we used to stretch in the 70s and 80s, that is out. We don't do that anymore. So we're going to focus tonight on the static stretching and dynamic stretching. So we're going to start off with dynamic stretching. If you've worked with me before, either as a private client or in a group setting, you know this is what we do at the beginning of the workout. So for Orange Theory members, it's what you would do during a 3G workout in the weight room. If you're a client of mine, it's what we do before we actually do our main workout. So let's actually just go through a dynamic warm-up. This is going to be about a 3-minute warm-up that we're going to go through. We're going to start with that total body, then we're going to go into the lower body, and then take it into the upper body. So a typical example would be going right into jumping jacks. Modification for jumping jacks, if you can't jump, is here. Otherwise, we're just here. Now in dynamic stretching, the main goal is to warm up the body in the direction that you're going to be training in. So if we were going to be doing any lateral movements in the workout, we would want to be warming the body up in the lateral motion, which is what we're doing right now. All right, so just stay with this. 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, if your goal is not to get up your cardio either, we can just come here for that same preparation for any lateral movement. Now, an example of that lateral movement would be if you were going to do side lateral raises with dumbbells, or if we were going to do the loop band and do those side lateral walks. Because we're moving in the lateral motion, you want to make sure that you've warmed up the joint in that lateral movement, moving that synovial fluid around. Now that takes care of the side motion. How about the front and back? So for warming up the hip joint and the shoulders in the front motion, one example would be bringing those arms up overhead. Your toe is behind you. I'll turn this way. And then pulling that knee up. So again, let's think about what would I be doing in a workout that I would want to warm up this way. Well, if you're going to do, you stay here warming this up. If you were going to do a front lateral raise with weights, that would be the shoulder motion that you're warming up right now. So again, pulling. So now look at the lower body. If we were going to be doing squats or lunges, anything where we're flexing that knee and stretching that glute muscle, we would be warming it up as well. So example, if you were going to be doing squats, you see that motion, the knee is flexed, the glutes are being stretched. If we were doing that lunge, again, that knee is flexed, that glute is being stretched. All right, so that would be another example. So let's just switch to the other leg, just to keep ourselves even here. Exhale and pull. So today is really the only day I'm going to be showing you dynamic stretching, because it's usually done very deliberately before your workout to prepare you. Second half of the video tonight, we're going to focus on static stretching. So doing these little warm-ups is actually a good idea for us to do before that static stretching. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're stretching out the glute and working a little bit on the hamstring and the glute and the knee joint. How about the quadricep? Well, we don't want to go into a full-on static stretch with that hold. I see a lot of people doing that before they run. They do that leg hold and all of that. When you do that hold, that's the static stretching that we'll get to a little bit later. So what would you do in the dynamic stretching for that? We would do what you call butt kicks. Now, again, you can either take it slow. This is where we're really stretching that quadricep muscle. You can feel that quad lengthening, releasing. Again, preparing it for what type of workout you would be doing that uses those quadricep muscles. Now, if you wanted to kick it up a notch, we would do a full-on butt kick where you're here. Now, look from the side view. That quad is staying perpendicular to the floor. I'm not bringing the knee up into that jog, all right? So let's just finish warming up those quadriceps. As I mentioned, this dynamic stretching is going to help when we get into the static stretching shortly. Excellent. So if you've been paying attention, what haven't we warmed up yet? What haven't we done dynamic yet? We've done that lateral motion on the arms and the legs. We've done that front back motion for the shoulder, the knees, the glutes, hamstrings, and the quads. We haven't hit those biceps and triceps. So think about it. If you're going to do a bicep curl or a tricep extension, we're warming up in that same motion. So again, really squeeze tight, press back. Now during your dynamic stretching, the main goal here is you are feeling a little muscle contraction, but we're going to full range of motion, but we're not holding. That's the primary difference between dynamic and static. All right, so what else do we have when it comes to dynamic stretching? We've done side to side, front and back on pretty much every joint in the body. The only thing we haven't done is rotational. So we have several planes of motion. So tonight, you guys are getting an education. When we do that lateral movement, that's actually called the frontal plane. It's the plane that divides our body from front. So the side motions are the frontal plane. Then we have the sagittal plane. That's like dividing your body in half, moving along that plane. Then we have the transverse. That is our rotation. So a great dynamic for rotation is just doing a little twisting. So by doing this twisting, we're really warming up the core. And if you notice the shoulders, letting the arms go as well, the shoulders are getting that little rotation as well. And I'm warming up that ankle joint because I'm having to do that little bit of a bounce. Now, if that isn't an option for you, you can do a step and a little bit of a hop. Just try your best to keep some part of your body facing forward so you're still getting that twisting motion. So just to recap on dynamic stretching, same thing basically as a dynamic warm-up. It's stretches that are moving the body in the directions that they're going to be moved in during a strength training workout, okay? So normally you wouldn't be doing this unless you're about to work out, unless you're just doing it for a quick joint mobility, wake up the body. Like if you were going to be in the car all day on a long car ride, something like this would be worthwhile. If you're going to Disney all day, something like that. As we get older, it's a good idea to go through something like this as well in order to just keep those joints lubricated to move the body around. There are a couple other dynamic stretches, but they're kind of a cross breed between static and dynamic. So I'm going to save that for the static part. All right, so now we're going to get into static stretching. Now tonight we're going to do static stretching with only the body. We're not going to use any of the equipment. Now I'm going to go off camera for a second, guys. I'm going to grab my stretching straps because I do want to show you a couple of tools. I posted the link the other day, but this is one of the stretching straps I use. It has handles, and you'll understand why on, I forget if it's tomorrow or Thursday, we'll be using this one. One of those days we're using foam roller one day and stretching strap the other day. This is another one that has loops, but it's elastic. So if you're not very flexible in your upper body, the elastic one is cool because you can get into position easy, but then you have the ability to really pull it. And then I have my stretching straps by Liebert Fitness, a Canadian company I've worked for. I used to do their online show for them. And I'm going to be using these as well when we do straps. But they're good if you have limited range of motion as well, because they're two separate handles that are cut, but it has the loop, so you can more easily go single side of the body instead of together. All right, so please hop on Amazon or go to a sporting goods store and get yourself the stretch strap. And then I'll show a couple of foam rollers as well to prepare you guys for later in the week. Foam rollers, the darker the color, the more dense it is, the more it's going to really help you with foam rolling. The white one is very squishy. So if you can see here, guys, as I'm squeezing it, it has quite a bit of give to it, all right? That's not gonna do too much. If you're elderly or really have severe strains, that's a good starting point. The blue one is kind of medium density. You can push your finger in on it, but it's going to be your best option. The black one, if you want to get the black one, it's very, very dense. You can, I just find that the blue one is definitely more of an all-purpose. The longer, the better. The 3-footer is your first option. The 24-inch would be your second option. Don't opt for the 18-inch. Again, it's not very versatile, and you're going to find yourself buying multiple foam rollers, which is not needed. All right, guys, so let's go into our static stretching now. So one of the static stretches, Orange Theory Fitness members and my clients, you guys already know this, we're going to open up the chest. So I'm going to give you 3 chest static stretches right now. So go ahead, open up those hands. At Orange Theory, you know I call this the chest opener. Helps to expand those lungs. Now you should already notice a big difference between dynamic stretching and static stretching. We're not moving, we are holding. We're going to the range of motion where we feel resistance, and then we're trying to press slightly beyond that. Now, a word of caution, don't try to do static stretching on a day where you just did strength training. This should be done on a day when you are not sore at all in your muscles, so you can find the true end of range of motion so we can really gain additional flexibility. Bring those arms forward, and now thumbs are down and press back. So hitting the chest from a slightly different angle. You might also feel this in your triceps. Now, if you're asking, well, what about working out strains after our strength training class? We'll get to that when we talk about foam rolling. All right, that's really the more critical type of stretching for post-workout. All right, so that's one of your chest stretches. The next chest stretch we're going to go into is going to be down on the ground. We're going to go into what's called Cobra. Now for tonight, we're going to do baby Cobra, so it's a little bit less intense. So you're going to come down onto your forearms. So belly on the ground, your palms are down, your elbow is right underneath your shoulder, and you're just going to press up. And I want you to hold this for 30 seconds. Now the reason why this is called baby Cobra, you stay here, but real Cobra, not baby, but mama Cobra, is where we're going to go into those straight arms. And you're going to, when you do the full Cobra, you're really trying to let your pelvic sink in, but this can also strain your back a little bit and really trying to open up that chest. But let's say right now, in baby Cobra, push that chest out and arching that back. And 3, 2, 1. All right, now we're going to flip onto the side. Now on this one, your knees are going to be bent, your knees are stacked, and you have a 90-degree angle on your knee. Your foot is in line with your butt. You're going to lie down on one shoulder, stacking your hands together. Your arms are coming off from your body at a 90-degree angle. They're not too high, they're not too low. They're straight together. Now we're going to open up that top arm, and we're going to keep our knees on the ground. Don't let the knees roll. You're going to open up that arm as far as you can without lifting your knees. As soon as you get to that extended part where you can no longer open, you're going to immediately close. Now this is the hybrid stretch that I mentioned earlier. You're going to think, well, it's moving, so isn't it dynamic? You should notice a difference in the movement pattern. We are doing a slight hold, but after we do 3 to 5 in the traveling motion, we're going to start holding it open. The reason we do the movement part first is to make sure we really have good mobility before we go, like right now, into that extended hold. And on this one, I like to hold for about 10 to 20 seconds, but we're going to do it 3 times. So let's go ahead and close it again and open. So this is a great one for men and women, but especially for older men. For older men, as they age, you'll probably notice, a lot of you with your dads or your husbands, that they start getting a rounded back And that's from a weak back and a tight chest. So you need to keep that chest open, flexible chest, and a very strong back in order to maintain that good posture. All right, guys, we can't leave you tight on one side and flexible on the other. So go ahead and flip it over. I'm going to review the biomechanics again. Your feet are stacked, your knees are stacked, 90-degree angle on the knee, your feet are in line with your butt. Your hands are stacked, coming straight off of your body, and we open it up, keeping the knees down on the ground. Now, if you rotate this far and the knees start popping open, don't extend the arm that far. Bring the knees back down and only rotate as far as you can. If your hand doesn't touch the ground, don't worry about it. In time, with practice, by doing this repeatedly, several times a week, eventually your hand will touch. And in many cases, your hand won't reach the ground on the first rotation, but by the time we get into the holding stretches, you actually will notice that you already gained range of motion within one stretching session. Excellent. Now on the breathing during these stretches, I want you to exhale as we open up, as we go into that elongation of those muscles. And now hold. Hold on to it for about 10 seconds. So many of you probably have realized that that range of motion has already increased. 3, 2, 1. And close it 2 more times like that with that 10-second hold. Open it up. So when we're stretching, guys, I don't want you to rush it. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to breathe into the muscles. I know that sounds odd, but you'll understand as you stretch more often what it means to breathe into it. It's just really letting those muscles relax. Try to take away the tension, any resistance you're giving to that stretch. And close 1 more time. Open and hold. Great. From here, we're going to go into another hybrid exercise. It's called cat-cow, and it's going to look like a dynamic stretch and close. But it's actually 2 static stretches put together. So that's where the movement's coming from. So if you've ever done yoga, you'll be familiar with the cat-cow motion. So on cat-cow, a couple of key things you want to know here. Our wrist, elbow, shoulder is in one nice straight line. Your knee is right under your hip, so a nice tabletop position. Now slowly we're going to go up for a 3-second count, arching the back up as high as we can, and just pause for a couple of seconds. And then 3-second down. Now when we come down, notice my elbows do not bend. I'm pushing my butt out, pushing my chest out, and arching my back. So again, exhale up. We exhale up because we're collapsing the chest, putting pressure on that diaphragm. And we inhale as we come down, as we look up, as we expand those lungs. So the only part that should be moving is just that back. Your butt will feel like it's moving a little bit because of the range of motion on that back, but you should not be kneeling down. Your booty should not be going back towards your heels as you come down, and your elbows should not be bending either. Good. So this is giving your chest a stretch as well as your back. So we're arching the back up, stretching it, and then we're coming down for the extension of the back as the chest is getting that nice stretch. Good job. And you can't be Energizer Bunny on this one, guys. You have to keep it slow. 3-second counts up and 3-second counts down. Let's go for 1 more time. And down. From here, we're going to come on up into that standing position. So if you've worked with me before, you know biomechanically correctly, 1 foot up, drive yourself up to that standing position. All right, let's continue on with the back. So again, many of you will know this one, but I want to review the whys and the hows. Fingertips are laced together. First, your palms are facing you. We're just going to hold that core in tight, and we're just rounding the back. So we're separating all of your trapezius down into your lats, latissimus dorsi. You guys should start learning some of these muscles as we do the stretching. You'll learn them. And we're just holding. From here, we're gonna go down into a full body roll down. So we're going to get your feet about shoulder width, maybe a little more than shoulder width apart, and starting with your head and your hands. So the hands come down, rolling down the shoulders, going all the way down that spinal column. All the way. A little bit of a bend to your knees so you can reach down to that floor. And we're just hanging. So this is a nice spinal decompression. Let the hands go loose. Bend your hands if need be onto your knuckles or onto your wrists. So you can really let all of that upper back, rear shoulder go into a full extension. So we're letting gravity help us out with the static stretch on this. Excellent. Hold on to it, guys. Just breathe. Inhale, and as you exhale, try to get a little deeper range of motion. In 3, 2, 1, slowly rolling it up from your lower vertebrae to your mid. So going from the lumbar to the thoracic, all the way up, and all the way up and right into a shoulder roll. All right, guys. So let's go ahead into those shoulders, biceps, triceps, and then we're going to take it to the lower body. Now the last one, you probably felt that in your hamstring as well. So a lot of times these stretches are going to obviously involve some secondary muscles. We know the whole body is connected together. The first one, we're going to do a little bit of a side shoulder stretch. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see. Your right arm is going to go up behind your body straight. Your left arm is going to grab that right wrist, and then it's gently going to pull over to the side. So if I face forward, you should be able to see my hand here. So again, right hand is behind you, left hand is holding that wrist, and a gentle pull. Now, your left elbow formed a little arrow. That's going to be the clue of what side we're going to tip the neck to. So I want you to look to the left and drop your chin down. So we're looking left, we're stretching the right side of that neck. At the same time, we're stretching that right shoulder. And just hold it. Easy breathing. Try to get really elongate those muscles. Now slowly bring that head up and then back to center. Good, switch those arms. So now the left hand is behind, see it there? Right hand grabs that wrist and pull over as far as you can. Now again, that elbow is showing you what direction to look. So look to the side of that elbow and then drop your chin down to your collarbone. Go to the point where you feel that nice stretch. Go right down that neck. So again, if you breathe into it and acknowledge it, you should get a deeper stretch within one session. Good, that head comes back up, back to neutral. Now we're going to bring that arm in front. Now many of you have seen me do this before. A lot of people hold up here. If you hold up there, you're probably not feeling much of a stretch if we're being honest. So I want you down here, your elbow is straight and you're coming down at the wrist area. You're going to feel a much deeper stretch with this, all the way from your shoulder down into your tricep. Now all of these stretches, guys, 20 to 30 seconds. If you're really tight in one area, if you just have very poor flexibility in one area, then do 20 to 30 seconds on each side and go back and forth 2 or 3 times. So you know your own anatomy, you know if you need that extra stretch. Good. When we come out of any stretches too, we don't just fully release like an elastic band. Bend that elbow, come out of that stretch and drop it down. Other arm across the body. Down low, keep that elbow nice and straight and hold. So sometimes with this, people will only be able to bring their arm to here, and they're like, but I can't reach as far. Right, because we're stretching those muscles. So when we're doing it with a straight arm down at a lower lever point, you're getting a much longer stretch there. Excellent work. Stay with it. After this, we're going to go right into those biceps and triceps. All right, guys, again, bend that elbow, come out of it easy. Bicep stretch. Grab those fingertips. You're going to stretch all the way through the forearm up into the bicep here. So again, this is getting into some of the little stuff, but it is important. So this is, this type of static stretching. If you're not regularly sore in some of these areas, try to switch those arms. Try to perform it at least once a week, just to make sure that you're not losing flexibility, all right? Because the less you stretch and the more you do strength training, the shorter your muscles are going to get. When we're working them, a lot of times they shorten up. The ligaments get shorter, so you have to make sure that you're at least maintaining that flexibility. All right, guys, let's go into that tricep. I'm gonna come down to a kneeling position so I don't go off camera. You can stand or kneel, your choice. We're gonna bring one arm up above, drop that hand behind your head. Other arm comes up, takes that elbow, and gently pulls down. I'm gonna turn around for a minute so that you can see. I'm pulling down on a diagonal. So that hand is coming diagonal. I'm not trying to pull straight down. Pull down on that diagonal. So think about how your body naturally moves and make sure you're stretching it in that direction. Same thing, try to relax. Inhale, exhale. On the exhale, try to pull a little bit deeper. Same thing when we release this, guys. We release, come up and down. Now the other arm comes up. Drop that hand behind you. Other hand assists, and down on that diagonal. All right, after this, we're going to take it right down onto the mat, and we're going to, onto your mat, and we're going to go into the lower body stretch, all right? It's probably the one that everyone needs the most. We're going back to quads, hamstrings, glutes, hip flexors, and calves. Good job, guys. Perfect. So like I said, later in the week, we're going to be reviewing the stretching strap and the foam roller. So make sure you have those handy, guys. Those are actually my two favorite types of stretching. It's going to really make your static stretching so much more beneficial. And release. All right, let's go ahead right into the first hip. Let's go start with hip flexors since we're already in this position. Many of you know this one, but again, let's make sure that we're doing it correctly. So I know sometimes people do lift the arms. That's during a yoga move. I don't mind if you do that, but I really want you to pay attention and really focus on the actual hip flexor stretch itself. 90-degree angle on that front leg. Tip that hip forward, lean into it, and you can slightly rotate to the left or the right until you really feel, like I'm feeling it right now, so I'm slightly rotating inward to really feel that deep hip flexor stretch. So the hip flexor muscle lies deep inside and it connects that lower body to that upper body. It's really a critical muscle, and it comes into play in so many different movements, so many different strength training exercises. So you have to make sure you really treat that hip flexor kind. Excellent. Good, we're gonna combine this with the hamstring stretch. So now you're going to sit back, lift the toes. So we're stretching the hamstring of that opposite leg. This hand can be down if you need to have something that you can hold on to as well. You might feel this in the calf as well. If your calves are tight, you may feel that in your calf. All right, let's go ahead and switch those legs. So again, leg is up. I'm going to turn this way so you can see that hip movement forward. 90-degree angle. Tilt that hip forward. And again, find your range of motion. Find where you need to rotate or twist. So for me, it's right here. Like I said, a lot of people will do those arms up or single arm up. Your choice. I really like to keep that full concentration right on that hip flexor. Just make sure your shoulders are squared up and you're not leaning excessively to one side. You can do a rotation, but don't shift that weight. Even weight between your knee and your front foot. Good. Let's go into that calf stretch. A little bit of that hamstring stretch. So a lot of times we'll be doing one stretch and someone will say, I'm really feeling it in my shoulders, but it's a back stretch. Or I'm really feeling it in my back, but it's a shoulder stretch, etc. So it all depends on where you are the most tight. Again, don't forget, most exercises involve primary, secondary, and sometimes even third muscles that come to play to help out any exercise you're doing. Excellent. All right, we're gonna go into another one for your hip flexors. It's called pigeon. Now this is a little bit challenging to get into. If you can't get into it, don't worry about it. If you can't get into it, I do want you to come into a standing hamstring stretch where you lift the toe, okay? That is your alternative for this one. But what we're going to do is we're going to start in a straight arm plank position. Now you're going to bring your right foot forward, drop the knee down, drop the left leg down, and then scoot yourself back and try to sink into it. Now this is going to stretch, if the right leg is bent, you're stretching the right glute and then the left hip flexor. So sink down as low as you can. This is definitely a stretch that during one session, even just one session of doing this, you're going to feel that stretch go deeper and deeper. You're going to feel that back leg slide. Try your best not to restrict it. Try not to stop it from happening. Let that flexibility increase. As long as you're not getting severe pain, remember the difference between a stretching, like a massage pain, discomfort versus true pain. If you get pain, ease off on it. But if it's just a stretching discomfort, try to stay with it. 3, 2, 1. Now using your back ball of your foot, come back up, hands straight, back up, shift that leg back, other leg forward, and drop the back leg down and sink into it. Good. So again, wherever you are the tightest is where you're going to feel this. So you might feel this more for me. I feel this more in my left glute right now than I do in my right hip flexor. I've been spending a lot of time on my hip flexors, so they're very flexible right now, but my glutes are really tight from a lot of work that I did today. So Sunny, if you're on with me still right now, you know what I'm talking about with that run we did earlier today. Good job, guys. Just breathe into it. Excellent. All right, we're going to come back up out of that, so up onto those toes. Shift forward, straight arm plank position. Come on up, and that leg goes back down. All right, we're going to go right into child pose. So this is similar to in the cat-cow series in yoga. Child is another very common one. If you're using a mat, I want your knees out on the very edge of the mat. Your feet, if you were sitting down, your heels should be touching your glutes, okay? So you're in a slight V formation. Your knees are definitely wider than where your heels are. So on this, you're going to be down on those forearms. Again, those knees are open, and you're just shifting your weight. Shift your booty back to your heels. Now, I like to keep my forearm down on the ground and bring it a little closer to my body, and that helps me press back into this. Now, if you can, ideally your forehead goes on the floor. So we have our palms in contact with the floor, the top of your feet in contact, and then your forehead. So we have a nice stretch going on in the shoulders as well as those glutes, and you're going to feel a little bit in the quadricep as well. Just enjoy this stretch. Easy breathing. From here, we're going to be shifting it over onto our side for a lying quadricep stretch. In 3, 2, 1. Back up to tabletop position first. Now let's flip it over, back onto that side stretch like we were doing when we did the 90-90 upper body stretch. So on this one, you're going to have your leg, bottom leg is out straight. Your top leg, you're going to grab that back foot. Now this is a great example of where the stretching strap is going to be so much more beneficial, either the Liebert straps or the stretching strap, because a lot of people can't necessarily reach that foot, either because their quads are tight or just anatomically you just can't do it very well. Your range of motion is not that great. So that stretching strap, say you could only stretch to here, that strap is going to be instrumental in you really improving that flexibility. And chances are if you have poor flexibility lying down, your balance might be challenging for you as well if you tried to perform this in the standing position. I know many of you struggle with doing the quad stretch from the standing position. Good, hold on to it. Really important your quadriceps stay next to each other, they stay parallel. 3, 2, 1. Release that, flip it over to the other side. All right, and pull that knee up. So if you guys don't have time to stick around, I probably have about another 5 minutes of this stretch. So tonight's stretching is pretty involved. As you can see, guys, it's not a quick 2 or 3 minute stretch, doesn't really do the trick for the whole body. Now tonight we are doing dynamic and static, so we're kind of doubling up here. But it really should be at least a 15 to 20 minute. Now for those of you who know that I'm on liftsession.com now, we actually do have a class called Regeneration, where it's flexibility and mobilization. So it's a whole class dedicated to stretching and range of motion. So you might want to check that out too. Great. All right, from here we're going to go into my all-time favorite stretch. Okay, this is a whole stretch series that involves the glutes, it involves the hamstrings, it involves the calves, and it involves the ankles. So here we go. This is actually one of my all-time favorites. Most of my clients will know this one. You're lying down, your leg is bent, your ankle is on your knee. You're going to reach through that hole you created, grab the thigh, behind the thigh of the leg that's bent 90 degrees, not the leg on top, the bottom leg. This is another one where that stretching strap is going to be so helpful in really getting a nice grip. So if you have, a little bit of a belly, this is going to be a little bit more challenging, as well as if you're not very flexible. From here, we're going to extend the leg that you're holding onto, extend that leg straight up in the air. Now try to pull a little bit deeper. You can move those hands up behind the knee. We're going to point and flex that foot 5 times. 3, 4, and 5. Ankle circle it. 1, 2, 3. 2 more. 4, 5. Reverse it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep the ankle on that knee. Lower it down to the ground. And we're going into another hip stretch here. Just let gravity pull that knee down to the ground. Shoulder blades are completely on the ground. You're slow breathing. You can isometrically try to push that knee down. But in this stretch, if you're working with a partner, try your best. Don't let the partner push you beyond where you're comfortable with that stretch, okay? I know in martial arts they do that a lot. So make sure that, whoever's helping to stretch you, if that's the case, that they definitely know what they're doing. Now we're going to take this bent leg up and over the body. This left hand pushes this knee down. Extend your right arm and look over that right shoulder. Try to keep both shoulder blades down on the ground. Really nice stretch on that right glute. So if you're looking to your right, it should be the right glute you're feeling it in. So hopefully many of you are really enjoying this stretch. Like I said, this is my favorite stretch series right here that we're doing. 3, 2, 1, back to center. Other leg now. So if you were following with me, it's the left leg up on the right knee. Reach through, grab that right thigh. Pulling it into the point where you feel it go down the left adductor and abductor, down into that left glute. Straighten up that right leg, point and flex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ankle circles. 1, 2, 3, 2 more. 4 and 5. Reverse it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower the leg down. Keep the ankle on that knee. Now doing those ankle circles, I've worked with so many students before in my old boot camp class, and so many people who have ankle issues couldn't believe after weeks and weeks of doing those ankle stretches how much their ankle improved and how it didn't feel as weak and it didn't feel as sore. And don't be surprised if you're more tight in one hip than the other. From here, we're going to take that left leg over the body. Right hand pushes that leg down. Look over that left shoulder. This is a great lower body stretch as well. So again, breathe into it. Hopefully you're getting more of a stretch as you're doing this hold. Static stretching, when you do it when you're not super tight, you really can improve flexibility even in 1 or 2 sessions. But you have to stay with it. Good job. And 3, 2, 1. Come back to center. Sit on up. We're going to end with roly-poly. So this definitely is not a static stretch. This is a mobility stretch, but it's a nice pressure point therapy on your spinal column to roll. Now, if you can't do this particular roll, just go back to cat-cows and do that arching and that lowering. So you're going to grab onto those shins, all right? Grabbing onto the shins. You need to be a roly-poly right now. You know the little bugs the kids collect, the little roly-polies? You need to be a roly-poly right now, 5 times. Rolling it back and right back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, last one, and 5. All right, guys, there you go. You guys are done. So that was quite a bit longer than what I had planned for, quite a bit longer than what I thought. You guys did an excellent job. So remember, tonight was all about static and dynamic stretching. Make sure you buy those stretching straps or foam rollers. Amazon.com is the best place to get them. And be sure to tune in tomorrow night and Thursday night at 7:45 as well. I'm going to take you through foam rolling, the do's and the don'ts, and the benefits of it, and then the stretching strap also, how to do that, how to do those. And then starting next week, we're going to dedicate an entire week to foam rolling, an entire week to the stretching strap, so that you guys will have a go-to program to really make sure that you're staying flexible and that you know how to work out the strains during your workouts as well. Oh, hey, Jay. Oh, Jay, you're always such a great supporter. You're very welcome. Hopefully you got some great knowledge. And if you didn't get a stretch with me tonight, you guys, this is going to be posted on Facebook. By all means, go ahead and replay it. I'll also post it on my FitLife with Kelli, FitLifeWithKelli.com website. I'll have these posted by the end of the week, so you can easily go and get them. Hey, Luce, nice to see you. Good tuning in. Bruce, I think I saw you on too. I'm going to come into Axioms and say hi to everyone. I miss everybody as well. I know Marla and there were several other people on there. I'll give you guys shout outs. I can't see everybody right now. Let me see if I can scroll through. Oh, Ruben and Tom and Andrea, Holly, Dion. Oh my gosh, Jill, Christina. All right, a whole bunch of you guys were on. Thank you so much for your support. And remember, if you like these videos, please leave a comment, share them to your Facebook page, and share them to your Facebook page and leave a comment on my page. If I know that people are enjoying them, I'll continue to do them. If you guys aren't really enjoying them or have other resources, then no worries. But I'm not going to take the time to do them if that's the case. I don't think it is, though. Other than that, guys, have a great night, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.